in 2021, we've become quite accustomed to seeing our Hyundai Team Engstler car on the front of the grid. We haven't become accustomed to not having Luca Engstler at the wheel. Luca Engstler, our championship leader, is on the second row. Is Nico Gruber, who's out-qualified him second on the grid. Pole position goes to yesterday's winner, the man, the local man. Dominic Fugel really was quite dominant yesterday. Came home to win the race. He started on pole position. He does exactly the same today, but that man there, Nico Gruber, in the Hyundai Team Engstler, who finished 12th yesterday, looking a lot better today. He really dialed it up in qualifying, nailed it, pulled it all together and other useful phrases, and put it on the front row of the grid. Adam Weller alongside me. Are you looking forward to this race? Is Luca Engstler going to be able to do anything from third on the grid, or is Dominic Fugel once again going to disappear off into the distance?
Well, I mean, I think one factor that's important in that question is whether Luca Engstler's car holds together. Yesterday, of course, he was stuck in gear for the final 10 minutes or so of the race. Thankfully, not a gearbox replacement, nothing of that nature, just a sensor issue on the Hyundai i30N TCR for the Engstler guys. So obviously much easier to replace a sensor than a gearbox, but obviously that was not the result Engstler was looking for, and it does rather hinder what was previously, is still a fairly significant cushion in the championship, but was previously a little more of a cushion.
So we have two Engstler cars on the first two rows. We have three Honda ADAC Saxons on the first three rows. There's a bit of a pattern developing here. It's Dominic Fugel who leads the field away as we start the formation lap. Hello everybody, welcome to the Sachsenring. Conditions are absolutely perfect. The skies, well, they're almost blue, a few clouds in the sky, but it looks like it's going to stay dry. 19 degrees centigrade. The Sachsenring circuit running in an anti-clockwise direction. That's a little bit unusual in the world of TCR Germany. And 3.671 kilometers around, which equates to 2.281 miles. 14 turns, 4 to the right and 10 to the left. Here's your grid. Dominic Fugel once again on pole position with Nico Gruber out-qualifying team boss Luca Engstler. Nico Gruber on second on the grid. There is Luca Engstler, who is third on the grid with Marcel Fugel, brother of the pole sitter, alongside him. Marcel had an indifferent day yesterday. Christopher Röhrner in another of the Honda ADAC Saxon cars is fifth. Great qualifying from him, alongside Martin Anderson, another shining star in TCR Germany in an Engstler car. Philipp Regensberger and René Kirscher, who finally saw his luck turning around to finish on the podium yesterday. Jonas Karklees and Robin Jahr making up row 5 of the grid. So the cars on their formation lap. Continuing along as we look at Patrick Singh and Simon Ladniak. Simon Ladniak not in his familiar VW, but has moved across to the Cupra after destroying the VW at Sachsenring. Then it's Eric Scalvini. He is second in the championship, but he really is struggling this weekend alongside Albert Legutko. Interesting pose in the pits. Roland Hurtner and Peter Gross. The drivers are very well trained for this series, aren't they just? On row 8 of the grid. And then on row 9, bringing up the rear, is Gunther Benninger in the other of the Wimmer Werk Motorsport Cupras. So we mentioned Simon Ladniak. He did destroy that VW at Sachsenring last time out. Well, he didn't destroy it necessarily. He was collected by another car, and the vehicle very badly damaged, which has seen him move across to Wimmer Werk. You can see the points championship situation. Engstler has a very healthy 71-point lead. So despite that problem yesterday, he still extended his championship lead on account of everybody else having a bad day. He's also scored points in qualifying because, of course, there are 10 points for pole position nowadays. And he has really stretched his legs at the top of the championship. And the rest of them have really got their work cut out to catch him. Scalvini a long way back, so he's got a lot of work to do. Dominic Fugel is coming up on the outside and looking to jump up a little bit closer to Luca Engstler. The formation lap is done. The cars are on the grid. You can see Fugel on the right-hand side of your screen, Gruber on the left, and we are waiting for the rest of the cars to form up. And then we will get clearance from the back of the grid. The man in white and with the green flag will very shortly give us some indication And then we will wait for the, I think it's 6 red lights to come on. And when they go off, we will have half an hour of racing ahead of us. They're holding quite a long time on the grid. Right now, the engine notes rise. And we are having another formation lap. So clearly there was an issue. We didn't see the green flag at the back. So what do you reckon that was, Adam?
Well, there's a gap. Looked like there was a gap on the grid, but actually there doesn't appear to be a missing car because it was a huge gap between Kershaw and Robin Yar, and I'm just wondering, it did look as though there were a good few cars well out of their grid slot. I don't know if it was just down to where they'd parked. It doesn't seem likely that that would be the cause of an extra formation lap. My honest answer is I didn't see anything too obvious.
So we're focusing on Robin Yar, so I wonder if he was the one that was out of position. Jonas Karkli, so I didn't see him there either. He should have been in amongst that lot. So clearly a little bit of confusion. It means, oh, we get another parade lap, don't we? So we get to look at these lovely cars once again, and we will try again very shortly.
Time then to raise a very important point coming into this race, and that is the point of tyre wear, specifically in the ADAC TCR Germany. This is a very important point. We've mentioned it all day long in all categories, of course, but in ADAC TCR Germany, of course, all of these cars are front-wheel drive, so they're having to do the propulsion and the steering, and that is a big strain on these cars over the half hour. Yesterday, Eric Scalvini had to pit late in the race, courtesy of a tyre going down to lamination. We also had Philip Regensberger slowing down towards the end of the race. I had a conversation with his team in the paddock. That was down to the tyres starting to wear, that he suddenly started to drop upwards of 5 seconds off the pace because he was so worried that the tyres were about to let go. We see the same kind of thing over on myself and Brian's side of the pond at Thruxton, which is clockwise and predominantly right-hand corners. We also see lots of punctures and tyre issues there. When you have a circuit that has this much strain on one side of the car, it does tend to play havoc, especially with front-wheel drive cars.
Interesting. It's very much the long game, isn't it? It's stretching the tyres, making sure they go the distance, not taking too much out too early on. This circuit, which has an awful lot of undulation, you saw the cars coming down a section of the track which is nicknamed the Waterfall out of turn 11, and that has a 12.8% drop. So lots of undulation, very windy, as we've mentioned already, anti-clockwise, which is quite unusual in the grand scale of things. So once again, we are on to the grid. The race distance has been reduced by 3 minutes as a result of that extra formation lap. So timed race, it's normally 30 minutes. We're down to 27 minutes plus 1 lap as a result of that. So once again, the cars line up on the grid, and it all looks reasonably good to me. Now the man with the green flag. Let's hope we see it this time. Oh, yes, we do. So clearance from the back. We'll wait for those 6 red lights to go on up on the gantry. When they go off, we will be about to go racing. It's race 2 for the ADAC TCR Germany here at the Sachsenring this weekend. Dominic Fugel once again stepping off pole position, moves across to close off Nico Gruber. Marcel Fugel on the inside. Here comes Luca Engster around the outside, and there's a half spinner going into the corner. I think that was Regensberger. So he picks it up, points it in the right direction. No harm done, apart from a whole load of places lost. And the cars continue around the Castrol Omega turn. So great start from Dominic Fugel. Nico Gruber solid into second, and Luca Engster, though, coming up round the outside and taking that position away.
Yeah, brilliant start from Fugel at the front of the order. Not a good start at all for Röhrner in the 47, the third of the ADAC Saxon Hondas. Just struggled to get off the line. Regensberger had to get all the way around him off the line. Such was the poor start for the Honda. And then, of course, he was right on the outside of the corner heading into turn 1, and Regensberger ended up making contact with another car, got looped around, and as you say, lost a whole heap of positions. And that looks looks to me as though Anderson's under pressure from Rene Kirscher there. That's a battle for 5th position, and as always, Patrick Singh gets involved, but Patrick Singh in this collision with Rene Kirscher. I was going to say Patrick Singh tried so many overtaking moves there in the first race. He's tried it again in race 2, and this time it's gone horribly wrong for both he and Rene Kirscher.
So Patrick Singh in the gravel trap. If he can't get that moving, it's going to bring out a safety car. So we said Rene Kirscher's luck had turned around. Well, it's turned back round again. He's kept it going, though, so he gets to rejoin the race. And hopefully no damage. There is the number 80 Rene Kirscher car, but Patrick Singh is still stranded out on the gravel, and if he can't get that moved, we will require a safety car in which to do it. So we're having a look again there, and you can see Kirscher leaves a nice big gap on the inside. Patrick Singh completely misses his braking point into the side of the VW, and the car goes spinning into the gravel. And that was a little bit of, well, I'd say a kamikaze on Patrick Singh. I just wonder whether he had some kind of failure to go into the corner that fast and that deep.
Maybe so. Certainly a misjudgment. Whether that was helped by... and we had another off there. That's Benninger in the Wimmerwerk Motorsport car on the exit of turn 7. And so a second car into the gravel, and no surprises that we have an extra car coming out onto the circuit. That is the safety car. There's a fair amount of TCR machinery to collect around the circuit.
So if we weren't going to get a safety car for Singh, and I think we probably were anyway, we definitely were now for Benninger. 2 cars that need to be retrieved. The safety car is out. The clock keeps running because we're under yellow flag conditions, and that safety car will pick up Dominic Fugel. He had already opened up a 2-second lead, very similar to yesterday, where he just cleared off into the distance, and Benninger, all on his own, loses the back end. The car swaps sides, and into the kitty litter goes that machine, and he ain't going anywhere under his own power, that's for sure. The heavy duty machinery dragging the car out, and gravel up into every possible orifice, and soon they'll get that out of the way, and we'll be able to get the race back underway. Patrick Singh
he just crossed the line. He managed to get out of there himself, which I think is relatively impressive, because he came to a full stop at the gravel on the exit of turn 13. So well done on the rally driving, if maybe even though the braking might be a bit troubling going into turn 13. But so it was just Benninger's mistake that triggered the safety car. We see the replay of the start once again, and you see Regensburger keep an eye on the Opel Astra on the outside there. I think it may have been Anderson that he collided with.
One thing I would question, Dominic Fugel was very quick out of the blocks. I haven't seen anything indicated that there is a problem, but I do wonder whether he maybe slightly over-anticipated that start. He really was very quick away. We can't see the lights from this angle, but he certainly was. If it wasn't a jump start, it was a great start, a very rapid reaction to the lights going out. You can see Luca Engsler came sweeping round the outside of his teammate, and you could see the spinning car there of number 33 of Philip Regensburger.
And with apologies to Anderson, that was actually Jahr that he collided with Regensburger, so it was another of the Hyundais that he collided with there. You see what you're describing there with Engsler going all the way around the outside, and in the background you see Regensburger's sole Opel Astra in the wars at turn 1 on lap 1.
So we're under safety car conditions. We're about 1/3 of the way through the race. We've seen a fair bit of drama. Safety car ultimately for Gunther Benninger. Safety car is good news for Rene Kirscher because although he's had that incident that's seen him spin, he's able to rejoin, and he could well make some progress from there. Rene Kirscher, who finished on the podium for the first time this year yesterday. And as we suspected, car 88, Dominic Fugel, is under investigation for a jump start. That will be very significant indeed. And Luca Engsler, Christmas might be coming early for him, because the local boy, Dominic Engsler, you can see he is moving before the rest of the cars. Now, let's have a look. I can't actually see the lights. Oh, there we go.
I honestly think he might have timed that to perfection. Obviously, we're getting the same view effectively as the race control here as they try and work this one out as they go wearing out the fast forward and rewind buttons of the production crew. But hopefully that will be resolved quickly. Safety car is in this lap.
So the lights will go off on the safety car. Control of the race will be handed over to Dominic Fugel, and we will wait to see if any messages come up in relation to that suspected jump start. You can see that Fugel just pulls the pack back, bunches them together, keeps the heat in the tyres, and his job will be to go when Luke Engsler least expects it. There's the safety car peeling off up towards the pit lane, and any moment now Dominic Fugel will stop the weaving and suddenly he will go. It's his decision when he goes, and that decision is now, because Fugel hits the accelerator out of turn 14, sees the green flag, has done that brilliantly already, half a second over Luke Engsler. Then there's Nico Gruber in third place and Marcel Fugel in fourth. But Marcel looking to the inside and to the outside of Nico Gruber. And Martin Anderson in fifth place. Robin Yar behind. Yar coming under pressure from Eric Scalvini. Scalvini making good progress from further back on the grid, wanting to get his championship back on track as we look at Regensburger on the outside of the Christopher Ruhrner Honda.
Absolutely. Scalvini picked his way through the numerous dramas quite nicely on that first lap, but he has been struggling to hook up the Wimmer Motorsport Cupra here this weekend at the Sachsenring. Let's see if he can try and salvage a decent point-scoring result out of this second race. Obviously, he lost points to Engsler, even in spite of Engsler's numerous issues in race one, and now really he's got to worry more about defending second place, Scalvini, because the likes of Dominic Fugel are having a great weekend.
They certainly are. Dominic Fugel, who is local to here and knows this track like the back of his hand, and you can just see the way he hustles that Honda Civic around here. We have a 5-second penalty for our race leader, Dominic Fugel. A jump start, so a 5-second penalty has been awarded. I have to say that going on his performance yesterday, he could well win this race by more than 5 seconds, but you can see confirmation on your screen there. Dominic Fugel has been adjudged to jump the start. It would have been by an absolute fraction of a second. No doubt his team have been on the blower. They've said, you need to win this, and you need to win it by more than 5 seconds. And if he can do that, he will hold on to that first place. So Luca Engsler will probably have had the message as well, and will be hustling that Hyundai as best he can to catch up with Dominic Fugel. We're seeing a replay of the start once again. Dominic just momentarily anticipating it. It was almost a brilliant start. It's a thin line between brilliance and disaster, isn't it? You can also see Regensburger, who ducked out to get past Christopher Ruhrner, who had that dreadful start. So we're going to keep an eye on the gap at the front as we head towards the halfway spot of this. And already Dominic Fugel has nearly 2 seconds over Luca Engsler. So a 5-second gap is not out of the question.
Absolutely not. It was 18 seconds at one point, the gap between Fugel and the chasing pack yesterday. However, that did end up shrinking a little bit as he eased off somewhat, just having a bit of a lovely summertime Saxony cruise towards the end of the race to preserve the car. Meanwhile, Marcel Fugel is all over the back of Gruber. So the two wingmen of the top two in the race, Gruber and Fugel, having a good battle in third and fourth position. Marcel's had some rotten luck recently. Let's hope he gets a good result.
And this is Jonas Karklees on the inside of Philip Regensburger. This is for 10th place and made that look relatively easy. So Jonas Karklees goes up a position. Regensburger, who appears to have just been a little bit in the wars during this race already, goes back a position. Fugel leads the way from Luca Engsler and Nico Gruber. That's your 1, 2, 3 at the moment. Marcel Fugel, though, is a man on a mission. You can see him behind Nico Gruber, the Honda chasing down the Hyundai, which has been so dominant in TCR Germany for so long. The Hondas certainly look to have something of an upper hand here this weekend. They passed through a cloud of dust. One of the front runners has clearly run a little bit wide, and that is the 34, and that is the Patrick Singh car. So we saw him spin early on. Clearly, all is not well with that particular Hyundai. Now, where he is out on track, he's out towards turn 8, and I think he's well out of trouble.
I think it might be a little bit before that. It stops there if they don't reach the interval, so somewhere in the first sector. But the good news is, well away from anything immediate to the circuit, he's found a nice access road. So
what Dominic Fugel doesn't want is a safety car, particularly in the latter stages of this race, because he's already opened up that lead to 3.6 seconds as Jonas Karklees, he's coming through, man on a mission on the inside of Christopher Röhrner, under braking into the corner, and Jonas Karklees has really got the bit between his teeth. Ahead of him is now Albert Legutko, but Röhrner is coming back, a driver who's guesting in a third ADAC Saxon Honda this weekend, and has been doing exceptionally well indeed. As you see from the graphic, it's the battle for 9th position. Jonas Karklees muscles his way past, and Christopher Röhrner doesn't really have an answer at the moment. Regensburger in the background, ready to pounce if these two cars get together. And look who's behind Regensburger. It's Rene Kirscher on his way back through.
A great move from Karklees there, basically a duplicate of what we saw him do on Regensburger a lap ago. I think once you figure out your overtaking opportunity, by all means continue to use it, but on that occasion there was a lot more fight in the dog he was passing. Röhrner there tried very hard and just had to yield eventually, albeit about 5 corners after the initial move.
So Dominic Fugel, his gap last time around was 3.6 seconds. I would wager that he's going to be getting close to the 5 seconds the next time they cross the line. We're going to have a look at our timing screens, and it is 4.5 seconds. So already Dominic Fugel is half a second away from what would be a potential victory. As we've already mentioned, what he doesn't want is a safety car in the latter stages of this race, because that would push him right back down the order. As we see Jonas Karklees now making his move on Albert Legutko on the outside into turn 1 behind them. Christopher Röhrner trying to follow through. Maybe that was a little bit optimistic. Albert Legutko just holding on to the line. Karklees dropping in behind Röhrner, and then Philipp Regensburger and Rene Kirscher. This is an epic battle for 8th place. And now Regensburger finds a gap on the inside of Christopher Röhrner. So they run up the hill, the blind crest, and up around they come. Then it's a steep downhill. Legutko at the front of that queue.
Yeah, Legutko, we saw him in the midst of quite a few scraps yesterday, and we're back in the same situation today. Albert Legutko, who's always good fun to watch in his venerable FK2 Civic, and in the FK8, the newer Civic, goes off track. That's Röhrner having a moment there. I don't think they've built a rallycross version, but clearly he's making the sales pitch.
Christopher Röhrner has not been scared. That's very good, by the way. Christopher Röhrner has not been scared to get his elbows out all weekend, and he really has enjoyed himself in the TCR. The rallycross Civic going through the gravel, and he keeps it pointing in the right direction. He doesn't slow it down. It's like a bit of drifting, really, isn't it? It's just keep your toe on it and out you come, back out onto the track, drag a load of gravel with you, and put that for the car that's following you at the time.
I tell you what, he found a bump as a Fugel. You can see he's pushing, can't you? He was in full drift as he went through turn 3 there. But I was just going to say, Röhrner there, you saw on the replay, he found a nasty bump in the gravel there with the rear axle. If that was a rear-wheel drive car, I think that would have been a bigger moment than it was. But thankfully, all the power was going through the front wheels, so he didn't end up in a pirouette.
Well driven. Now, the news is that Dominic Fugel has a gap that is over 5 seconds. He is 4.482 to the good. So even with the 5-second penalty that he has been awarded, he would still win the race if it ended now. But of course, there is still 11.5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining of this race, and he has got to survive. He's got to look after the tyres. We saw him drifting the car around the corner, and he needs to not take too much out of those tyres because he needs that gap at the end. Nico Gruber is being pursued by Dominic's brother, Marcel. Marcel Fugel, who won the Junior Challenge Championship last year, got to take home a nice brand new Honda Civic for his troubles. As Philip Regensburger looks at Albert Legutko through on the inside. Legutko didn't really put up much of a fight. He touches the edge a little bit of the dirt, but no major issues. He has a little look back. Rene Kirscher is behind them as well. Kirscher in 11th place, but Regensburger also looking very quick here.
Yeah, side by side now between Legutko and Rene Kirscher up the inside. As you say, Kirscher on the recovery after that collision with Patrick Singh. And Kirscher through into what is now 10th position. Made the move into the first corner, although he already had a nose ahead at the start-finish line. That Volkswagen's been in strife in recent times. Of course, this second race has not gone to plan thus far. And we saw it with quite a lump out of its, I believe it's front right corner at Hockenheim at the hairpin, courtesy of a collision and some misgivings. And he'll be hoping to at least get a top 10 out of this. At least he is now in 10th position.
A driver who's made good progress is Eric Scalvini. Coming into this weekend, he was second in the championship. He had a dreadful day yesterday, as you've already heard. Making good progress from towards the back of the grid. He's up now into P7 as Albert Legutko goes wide and picks it up, keeps it going. Legutko, as we've already said, is in 11th place. He loses a position as a result of that. So that's Regensburger, that's Kirscher, and that's Legutko. He didn't just go wide, he was almost out in the trees, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yet more gravel dragged onto the circuit. And hey, that's the way you drive a car, isn't it? You just keep your foot buried on it and you go, hey ho, I'm coming through.
Well, he had an excess of ambition going through the corner at that speed anyway. May as well keep your foot planted once you're in the gravel trap, eh? Marcel Fugel there trying for his podium position all over the back of Nico Gruber. Gruber doing a good job of defending. Fugel yesterday had some issues, some damper setting problems with his car that really did ruin the tyres and the handling of that Civic. Seems to be hooked up better today, and now trying to find his way through, grazes the bumper of Gruber, maybe just slightly. A little bit of paint exchange. At least the back of Gruber's car has some red on it already.
So Nico Gruber, who came into this championship as a bit of an outsider for the title, not had the year that he would like. He's only had 2 podiums so far. Would dearly love another podium. He's in the final podium position at the moment. As you can see, Marcel Fugel really wants to steal that trophy away from him, though. So Marcel Fugel, after that dreadful race yesterday, really dialed in today, tracking every move of Nico Gruber. It's a Honda leading the way from 2 Hyundais, then a Honda, then 2 Hyundais, and the leading Cupra is Eric Scalvini in 7th place. So Scalvini still a long way back in terms of challenging for the big points this afternoon. Gruber appears to have fielded the attack of Marcel Fugel for the time being, but you get the feeling that Fugel is just saving himself and winding himself up for another attack. In the background is Martin Andersson, another of the Hyundai Team Engstler cars.
Andersson, who has been about half second quicker than the 2 cars ahead of him for the last few laps, so I am wondering if maybe the Dane will get involved in this scrap before the end of the race in the final 7.5 minutes, dive in and provide some backup for his fellow Hyundai Team Engstler runner. Great to see Gruber holding off Fugel for the time being. He's put in some really good defensive driving so far. If he does end up on the podium, it's going to be well earned, but we've still got a long way to go.
You saw Marcel Fugel pushing so hard, just coming round the Castrol-Omega turn, getting a wheel onto the dirt, and they seem to spend more time running on the edge of the dirt than anywhere else on the track. Every last 10th of a second counts in TCR Germany, so evenly matched, trying to extract as much out of the car and out of the track as possible, but not taking too much out of the tyres too soon.
It's turn 9 where we keep seeing that dirt kicked up, and I can confirm from my track walk yesterday, not only is the grass all but gone, but also it seems as though there's a little bit of rubber laid down. Such is the commitment to that corner, and ever so slightly cutting it in the process. There we see the graphic there letting us know that still Engstler is falling back from Fugel, which should give Fugel the advantage he needs come the end of the race. Of course, watching the lights. Oh, and Legutko trying very hard again, and again the rear end of the car got kicked up in the gravel there. You've got to be so careful. Legutko just about held on to it. His day just gets worse now, down in 12th position. Struggling definitely, as he's now got the leading car in the trophy class, the very experienced Roland Hertner, who has a little bit less competition actually than he was meant to have, because unfortunately Peter Gross ended up retiring his Audi before even taking the start of the race, withdrew to the paddock early.
So there's Albert Legutko running in 12th place. Certainly not the weekend that he was hoping for. Roland Hertner in 13th. That's our leader, though, Dominic Fugel. The gap, 8 seconds, almost exactly 8 seconds between himself and Luca Engstler in 2nd place. So Dominic Fugel just needs to do that, and he has got, well, you can see now the updated time. He's crossed the beam. He's just put a second on that, so a little over 9 seconds is the gap. So if the race finished now, it would go to Dominic Fugel. To remind you, he is carrying a 5-second penalty for a jump start, but he is doing all that he can to cancel that out. Listening to Luca Engstler changing gear, he had issues yesterday with gear change. I can see Adam just waving his hand. It's not sounding as smooth as he'd like to hope, is it?
It doesn't sound as seamless as I've heard Hyundai TCR sound in other onboards. So I am a bit worried about whether Luca's gearbox gremlins are still present. So it hasn't been a great weekend, but at least he's still at race pace. At least he is still in 2nd at this stage. And actually, his best lap is a 1:28.302 in this race. His last lap, a 1:30.211. Now, obviously, tyre wear is a huge factor here. That will slow them down as the race goes on. But I do wonder if maybe the car is ailing slightly. Yeah, he's struggling to change gear. That's a very pregnant pause between synchros there. That's something slightly off in the gearbox once again for Engstler.
So Luca Engstler, who leads the championship by a country mile coming into this race, is going to be hoping he can hold on to that 2nd place, because Dominic Fugel has closed in leaps and strides in yesterday's race and today, because points are awarded in qualifying as well, 10 points for pole position. So Dominic Fugel taking chunks out of Engstler's championship lead, and Fugel would dearly love it if those gearbox issues would continue a little bit more, because that would put him right back into the championship hunt. Dominic Fugel, who had not the best of starts to the year, he was a pre-season favourite for the championship, and that's Marcel Fugel going slowly. So Marcel Fugel's troubled weekend continues. You see him going slowly up towards turn 14, and suddenly Nico Gruber has got a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened there with Marcel Fugel. Something amiss, certainly, with Marcel's car once again. All 4 tyres appear to be up. So it doesn't look like there's been a puncture to that car, unless I'm very much mistaken. But maybe more gremlins. I know there were some damper issues with the car yesterday, as I mentioned earlier on. Marcel confirming that to me himself. But yeah, something clearly amiss, and a huge shame. He was challenging for a podium. We were watching that race with delight between himself and Gruber, but it's come to an early end.
So the crew are working frantically on the car. Look at Marcel Fugel. He is visibly distressed by the whole situation. He was in position. It looked like he was going to get a podium. Certainly a podium and points are out of the questions. Although the marshals are working on the team are working on the car, there is no chance at all of him picking up points this afternoon now. Unlike his brother Dominic, who is 2 minutes plus 1 lap away from a victory. Now Marcel crosses the pit wall to go and see the team, and his troublesome weekend goes from bad to worse. Here comes Dominic Fugel. Well, he needed 5 seconds. Somebody tell him it's 5 seconds, not 5 days, because he is miles ahead of Luca Engstler, who is struggling with that gearbox. Nico Gruber is in 3rd. Martin Anderson closing in. Robin Yar is up to 5th. Scalvini up to 6th as a result of the Fugel retirement. And then Jonas Karklees continuing his charge. And surely he's going to be troubling Scalvini before too long. You can see Marcel just talking to his team. and I think it's not going to be anything we can hear. No, so I was just trying to listen in to see what the problem might have been, but I dare say that will all come out in the wash.
Well, they did change the right front tyre on the car, but driver had already left in a huff before they'd finished that operation. Understandably so. I will say we just mentioned Robin Yar in passing. 5th place would be his best finish of the season. So if he can hold on to what is admittedly quite a hefty pack of cars behind him, he would be delighted with that result.
And 6th place for Eric Scalvini. Well, he'd welcome that, but it's not what he was hoping for from this weekend. He was the main challenger to Luca Engsler in the championship coming into this weekend. Coming out of this weekend now, the main challenger will be that car there, Dominic Fugel. 30 seconds plus 1 lap of this race remaining. It's Philip Regensburger and Rene Kirscher fighting over 8th place. Kirscher, who has really shown a great turn of speed this weekend after some lousy couple of weekends. And that is Regensburger. Maybe that's why Kirscher had closed in on him so much. Regensburger doing a little bit of rallycross, and Kirscher seizes the opportunity. Coming back through the field after that earlier incident, Kirscher must be wondering what might have happened if he had not had that problem early on in the race. The clock has struck 0, and so very, very shortly we will be into the last lap of this race. It's Dominic Fugel who leads from Luca Engsler. Fugel carrying a 5-second penalty, Engsler carrying a potential gearbox issue, and Nico Gruber in 3rd place. Rene Kirscher circulating in 9th with Regensburger. There's Jonas Karklees, who is in P7.
That battle for 8th place is also very important in the junior classification, because that is second among the juniors between Regensburger and Rene Kirscher as well. Of course, Nico Gruber has rather been running away with, well, potentially the keys to a new Honda Civic, but still very important for those two as to who gets the 2nd place pot when it comes to the Regensburger-Kirscher battle.
So we're into the final lap of the race. This is race 10 of this 14-race season. We're getting to the sharp end of the championship. Luca Engsler leads the way in the points, but that man there, Dominic Fugel, is closing on him in the championship hunt. And look at that, a 17.5-second gap between 1st and 2nd. He only needed 5. Well, he's tripled that, hasn't he? So Dominic Fugel just putting in an extra 12 seconds just to be absolutely safe. Luca Engsler, we believe, struggling with a problematic gearbox in 2nd. Nico Gruber with Martin Anderson knocking on the back door. His teammate, Anderson, I don't expect Anderson to be making any challenges in the final lap. So Nico Gruber looking good for a podium, but Anderson will be happy to capitalise if Gruber does make a mistake. But we are into the absolute final stages, because Dominic Fugel is heading out towards the waterfall as we speak, and very, very shortly he will be into the final couple of corners. And I said that Anderson wouldn't necessarily challenge Nico Gruber. Well, clearly no one's told Martin Anderson that, because the two teammates are still fighting as they head up towards the waterfall. Here comes Dominic Fugel, though, out of the final corner. He's miles ahead of Luca Engsler. He receives the checkered flag. We'll all just go out, have a cup of tea, come back again, and see when 2nd place crosses the line. It will be Engsler eventually in 2nd place, assuming the gearbox is held out for that final lap. Well, there's a bit of a gap here, isn't there? So we're waiting, and here he comes. So finally, Luca Engsler crosses the line, a distant 2nd place. He will be relieved to get there. Nico Gruber just holding off Martin Anderson for the final podium position. And Robin Yar picking up his best result of the year so far with 5th place ahead of Eric Scalvini. Whew.
I'd think that result for Fugel will likely leapfrog him over Scalvini in the title race as well, would it?
It had already. He was already ahead of him, I believe, coming into this due to his qualifying performance, because, of course, points awarded in qualifying. TCR, you get a pretty hefty points haul, so a race win is worth 25. A pole position is worth 10. So a lot of points on offer throughout a TCR race weekend. Let's have a look at the official confirmation. It's as they cross the line, Dominic Fugel ahead of Luca Engstler and Nico Gruber, Martin Anderson and Robin Jahr. Then it was Eric Scalvini, Jonas Karklees, the very entertaining Jonas Karklees by my money, and Philip Regensberger, rounding out the top 8 in the Opel Astra. 9th place went to Rene Kirscher. He had that earlier incident and he came back through the pack to pick up some points ahead of Christopher Ruhrner, Abbott Legutko, Roland Hurtner, Simon Ladniak, and then the non-finishers, Marcel Fugel. What a shame for him. Patrick Singh and Gunther Benninger with Peter Cross, who didn't actually take the start of the race, as we've already mentioned. So there's a replay of Dominic Fugel receiving the checkered flag. Felt like a long time ago. It was a long gap before second place came along. Fugel really has had the setup here this weekend. He has been utterly dominant, and really nobody's been able to get anywhere near him. He really has been on a different level. He won race 1 here last year. He had Harold Prochik, who stole it away from him in race 2 last year, but Harold not in the TCR this year. So let's have a look at the points. It's 68 points between first and second. Dominic Fugel, very much the challenger now. Eric Scalvini drops down to third with Martin Anderson not too far off Scalvini. Nico Gruber, 121 points back. He's going to be a little bit hard stretched on the main driver championship, but the Honda Junior Challenge, well, I think that Nico Gruber can get his Honda Civic driving gloves out before too long, because it could easily be heading his way. In the trophy category, highest finished trophy category finisher was Hurtner, who finished in 12th place and extends his lead at the top of that particular championship.
Wouldn't be his first time claiming a prize pot. Of course, ADAC Pro Car champion many moons ago, I think 2010.
You see, Adam is here because he is the walking, talking version of Google. It just saves me having to type anything. A wealth of useless stats and information. Right. So here's third place, Nico Gruber in the Hyundai Team Engstler Hyundai, a car that has been so strong in TCR Germany. His teammate and one of the absolute Engslers, it is Luca Engstler himself who comes second. Also in the Hyundai, but it was all about the Honda Civic this weekend. Dominic Fugel making it 2 out of 2 in the Honda Civic for ADAC Saxon. Fugel really jumping, leaping, exploding back into the championship hunt. So we're very pleased to see what you can see there on your screen, and that is people. We have had a horrendous couple of years, haven't we? And running events behind closed doors and with restricted access. It has been fabulous. I would say almost emotional to see people piled into the Sachsenring enjoying their racing. The eBay Tower, a new innovation in collaboration with the ADAC for 2021, giving people a view of the circuit like never before. I climbed to the top of it at the Lausitz Ring during free practice, and I was getting vertigo. It's so high up. A really impressive view from up there. And really good because the ADAC are just working so hard to get the fans closer to the racing. And there you can see out enjoying what is kind of hazy sunshine conditions this afternoon. And, oh, there's a beard, isn't it? So, in the Fugel team, the Fugels have just been really dominant all weekend. Marcel would have finished on the podium twice had it not been for the issues that have hit him. And very sad for him, but Dominic has certainly proven the speed of that Honda. As the crowd look on, hello, good to see you, and we welcome you back.
Absolutely, and it was great to see there as well. You saw the Engstler team and the Fugel team. They're kind of giving each other fist bumps and high fives. Good to see camaraderie among what clearly this weekend have been the two top teams in the ADAC TCR Germany. As you said, leading into the race, the front three rows of the grids were the exclusive domain of Honda ADAC Sachsen and Hyundai Team Engstler. So great to see that camaraderie there in the paddock. And even though it is a highly competitive championship, as all of these ADAC categories are, there is still camaraderie in the paddock across all classes as well. And that's absolutely fabulous to see.
Yeah, that's really struck me, actually, just talking and looking around the paddock. Of course, for all of us, it's been great to be able to get back to the circuits and back to the paddock in real life. Woo! But there is that camaraderie, that willingness to help out and to get involved. And you look at Simon Ladniak, who effectively destroyed his VW Golf at the Sachsenring. Wim Werk coming up with the Cupra for him to run. And there is just an element of cooperation throughout the grid. And as you say, good to see both Hyundai Team Engstler and Honda ADAC Sachsen kind of fist bumping and congratulating each other. Oh, fancy bringing some of that up here. It's hungry in the commentary box. So, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is lunch. So we just wait for the drivers to make their way to the podium. It is a little bit of a climb up there, and they need to get their breath back. The young stars, I just think maybe one of those we might see behind the wheel in the future. This is where the inspiration comes from, isn't it? You come racing as a child and you get the bug, and it's, Dad, can I have a go-kart, please? No. Go and get a normal job. Right, so here we go. Race winner. Here comes Dominic Fugel. A slap on the cheek. And a representative from Honda Racing, who I believe is Tom Hoinks. And he will be representing the team up on the podium. And here come the rest of the drivers. Nico Gruber, absolutely loving his time here in TCR Germany, and we're hoping we will see him for many more years to come in TCR racing, because he really does add something to it. But there's the man who steals the headlines for this weekend. Once again, he's owned the top step of the podium. Luca Engstler, another second place, continuing his points haul, and Nico Gruber in third. So here comes Tom Hoinkes for Fugel Motorsport. And now the national anthem. A nice artistic shot in the sunglasses there. We like the arty shots, don't we? Trophies being presented. Thomas Witt, head of Motorsport Yokohama Europe, presenting the winner's trophy. And Joachim Martin presenting the trophy to Luca Engstler. And Nico Gruber receives his trophy for third place. I would tell you who that was, but I'm afraid I haven't got a clue. I'm terribly sorry to that man. There is the trophy to the winning team. So the question is it enough? Dominic Fugel, he started his charge. It's quite late on in the season. From here, we head to the Hockenheim Ring once again, the place we were at last time out. We're here again, then we're there again in 3 weeks' time for races 11 and 12. Then we head to Nürburgring in November for the season finale. Luca Engstler did all the hard work in the first part of the season. He looked to be running away with the championship. Dominic Fugel is fighting back. Is it going to be enough to close the gap and to take the championship to the final round?